Welcome, this is our Wednesday, July 20, 2016 edition of the Government News Brief. In the news, government is determined to address trafficking in persons and exploitation in mining districts, education delivery in Region 9 to be enhanced, and no across-the-board increase for public servants, as this does not allow the small man any real benefits. Stay tuned as we bring you the details of these and other stories. Thank you for staying with us. I am Azim Khan. Here are the details. Minister within the Ministry of Natural Resources, Simona Brooms, is determined to implement government's policy on trafficking in persons and address the issue of exploitation of persons in the mining districts. Paul McAdam reports.
The fight against trafficking in persons and the exploitation of workers remains a primary focus of government. The recently highlighted case of several Dominican women who were believed to be trafficked in Georgetown brought this issue to the fore once again. Minister within the Ministry of Natural Resources, Simona Brooms, was asked about any suspected cases in Region 10 at a recently held Meet the Public exercise.
Mining and forestry is taking place all over. I don't know if there are cases of trafficking here, or cases of trafficking all over the world, all over Guyana. So it will be something new or something that will jump out to me. But again, it is something that we're definitely addressing. And in this case with trafficking, I can tell you for forestry and mining, we're definitely taking the bull by the horn in this particular issue.
The minister noted that complaints about exploitation and other issues are being received by government agencies.
You have somebody write a letter or things like that, official complaints, persons will call, persons will send texts. I think the most problems that complaints that I've been faced with is the workers from bauxite. Bauxite workers and Rusal workers, they keep calling because, it is mining. And so they have been calling, they have approached my office, but it's a matter that the Ministry of Social Protection was dealing with. I'm not saying that workers that work in the mining sector that we don't have an interest, neither would we address concerns that come forward. But most of the problems that we get in terms of exploitation, conditions of work and all of that comes really from the men from the bauxite area.
Government has vowed to work tirelessly to stamp out human trafficking and the exploitation of workers across Guyana. Measures have been put in place to address complaints and deal with suspected cases using the full resources of the law. The Social Protection Ministry's Counter-Trafficking in Persons Unit has improved its staffing capacity with the addition of 2 social workers and a police detective. The unit carries out surveillance and raid exercises on hotspots. Additionally, the unit continuously conducts awareness campaigns across the country and provides support to victims to enable them to appear in court and testify against suspected traffickers, whilst also providing other psychosocial support. Paul McAdam, Government News Brief.
Government is not considering across-the-board payments for public sector employees since this contributes to blurring the salary scales and widens the gap in public sector wages and salaries. More in this Kadaki Amsterdam report.
Minister of Finance Winston Jordan says that the government has proposed differentiated salary increases for public sector workers, which will contribute to more meaningful reward for labor.
It's about wages, it's about allowances, it's about merit increment, and it's also about the bunches. So some people end up getting even more because as you debunch, you may have to give 1 increment or 2 increments and so on. So it's a whole package.
The minister noted that a return to the increment system will be in workers' best interest, resulting in a higher degree of certainty for increases based on an annual confidential report.
I would like to see those days come back so people know exactly what they will get next year without having to go through a torture every minute of salary increases.
Finance Minister points out that while government has set a minimum wage for the private and public sector, it has to be sensible because salary increases have long-reaching consequences for citizens' welfare.
At the same time, policymakers have to be wary of what it will do to the broader macroeconomic fundamentals of the country, especially competitiveness, and especially its impact on inflation, and especially its impact on exchange rate deterioration. And all of that could retard growth. And at the end of the day, instead of promoting welfare, it can reduce the welfare of the citizens.
There are reports of underpayment in some departments in the public sector, the neighborhood democratic councils among them. The minister says this is contrary to the law and must be addressed.
As government bodies, because they are government bodies, they ought to be complying with the public service minimum wage. And as I said, each one of them gets a transfer, and I will think it should be at least enough for them to pay the wages at the minimum wage. If it is so, then they ought to have a chat with the Labour Ministry to determine for them to do whatever investigation they should.
Government has set a monthly minimum wage of $50,000 for the public sector. Kidaki Amsterdam for Government News Brief.
Several regions have already benefited from the Civil Defense Commission's mission to build regional disaster risk management systems across Guyana. Renetta LaFleur has the details.
Regions 3, 5, and 6 are the latest beneficiaries of the RDRMS. Director General CDC Colonel Retired Chabilal Ramsroop says that the initiative is an effort to assist the regions in being prepared for disasters.
Disaster management is very, very important. We don't see the importance of it because the few disasters that strike us, we don't lose lives. Even 2005, I think it's only 34 people died, and most of them were sickness related. So I'm very happy to see the regional health officer here because it's very important.
Colonel Ramsroop explains that due to the importance of managing disasters in the country, the CDC has resumed drafting and consulting on the National Risk Management Bill. He says the aim is to make the bill effective.
It means to give bite to the Civil Defense Commission in managing disasters in this country. As it is now, we are not experiencing a problem. We are getting cooperation with areas, but the bill is going to formalize all the activities and the responsibilities of the various sectors in managing disaster.
Colonel Ramsroop explains that since the new government took office, additional responsibilities were given to the CDC. The bill will be amended to make it more effective. Vice Chairman Region 3 Sheikh Inshan Ayubi endorses the idea and believes it is necessary for the bill to be in place because it is critical for the regions to have the resources to respond quickly to disasters.
Globally, we are faced with challenges as it relates to natural phenomena. Probably in Guyana, we do not witness it. But does that mean that overnight it cannot dawn upon us? And if we are of the opinion that natural phenomena can happen in Guyana, we need to put certain action plan together.
The CDC will be implementing a RDRMS in Region 2 on Thursday and Region 6 on the first week in August. With funding from the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency, CDEMA, Regions 9 and 10 and the other administrative regions will benefit by the end of August. I am Renetta LaFleur for the Government News Brief.
Several education buildings in Region 9 are scheduled to be rehabilitated and or constructed to enhance education delivery. Details in this Tiffany Rodius report.
Region 9 continues to grow as the education sector sees vast improvement. According to the Regional Executive Officer Carl Parker, a number of schools are set to undergo rehabilitation while others are to be constructed in the region.
We have the rehabilitation of several school buildings, but the high point of the education is the construction of 2 school annexes, one at Paipang, and that will cater for children from Paipang who normally travel to Tiger Pond, a distance of 6 miles to school every day. The other annex we have is at Baishaidron, that is in the south, Rupununi. Baishaidron is 30 miles south of Achirip, and school children in Baishaidron have to go to school at Achirip, 30 miles.
Due to the distance of alternate schools available in the region, students are forced to travel through rough terrain to attend school, while some others opt to stay away.
Many of them don't go to school. And those who do go to school, their attendance is very irregular, very, very irregular. So what we will be doing there is building a school at Baishaidran, so that children in Baishaidran will be at school.
Region 9 Education Officer Marlon Sears adds that teachers will also be housed in more comfortable living quarters.
Quite recently, we have started budgeting for teachers' quarters. Every year, we would include teachers' quarters in our budget because that's one of our major concerns.
And then the other project is a teachers' quarters, a 5-apartment teachers' quarters in Sand Creek. That's in central Rupununi.
The construction and rehabilitation of schools and teachers' living quarters is tied into the government's education policy, which promotes and encourages the best delivery of the services of education. For the Government News Brief, I'm Tiffany Rogers.
The Ministry of Indigenous Peoples Affairs is collaborating with local and international agencies to address issues affecting women and children in hinterland communities. Here are the details.
The women and children in the 212 hinterland communities who are negatively affected by issues such as incest, rape, and unemployment will soon get relief. The Ministry of Indigenous Peoples Affairs is working to address these issues, as Minister within the Ministry of Indigenous Peoples Affairs, Valerie Garrido-Lowe, explains.
The women, some of the groups are asking for, let's say, training in cookery and so on. Some ask for training in garment construction. Some ask for adult education classes and things like that. So we have many requests. And as minister, I would like to see that all are, that we can fulfill all. What I try to do is I've been trying to do is get funding from perhaps international agencies and so on, and see also how I can work with my fellow ministries to help in this area. And that is so with regards to children too.
The minister noted that when she visited the Region 1 communities, she discovered that the children there are suffering terribly and urgently need help.
Until yesterday, I was listening to a resident of a community from Region 1 really asking, requesting for help with regards to children and incest in the community. Now, I am aware that this happens all over Guyana and from all ethnic groups, but I'm concerned with our children in the hinterland, especially because they're my responsibility.
Efforts will be made to address those issues through collaboration with the Ministry of Social Protection.
I'm getting in touch with the Ministry of Social Protection to see how the different agencies, how we can work together to divide. Instead of the Ministry of Indigenous Peoples Affairs, we have a welfare department. Instead of we saying, okay, we're going out to do training and so on in the different villages on TIP and drug and alcohol and sexual violence and those kind of things. Instead of us taking on the mantle alone, our department is very small. I want to team up with the Ministry of Social Protection.
Minister Garrido-Lowe points out that when the situation analysis for Indigenous women and children in collaboration with UNICEF is completed, it will provide valuable information, especially for the designing of better programs for the empowerment of women and girls. The situation analysis has been budgeted for in the 2016 national budget. Renetta LaFleur for the Government News Brief.
Those are the reports we covered in today's edition of the Government News Brief. The details of these and other stories can be found on GINA's website. We encourage you to stay updated and subscribe to our website and YouTube channel. All government and other information can be accessed from GINA's website. Join us again tomorrow when we bring you another edition of this, the Government News Brief. Thank you for watching.